What if I told you that the world you know, the borders, the wars, the poverty, the power, was designed by a meeting that never officially happened? In the shadows of World War I, while millions died in trenches, two men drew lines on a map. Lines that would create nations. Lines that would fuel a century of conflict. Lines that would control the world's most valuable resource. This is the story of the Sykes-Picot Agreement, the secret alliance that carved up the Middle East, betrayed millions, and set the stage for every major conflict you've witnessed in your lifetime. 1916. The Ottoman Empire is collapsing. For 6 centuries, it had controlled vast territories from Europe to Arabia. Britain and France saw opportunity. But this wasn't about democracy or freedom. This was about something far more valuable. Oil. The new gold. The future of industrial power. Enter Mark Sykes, a British aristocrat and Middle East expert who'd spent months traveling through the region. And Francois-Georges Picot, a French diplomat with imperial ambitions. These two men, in secret negotiations, would decide the fate of millions who had no voice, no vote, no warning. Between November 1915 and March 1916, Sykes and Picot met repeatedly in London. No Arab representatives. No public knowledge. Just two colonial powers dividing land that wasn't theirs. They drew a diagonal line from the Mediterranean to the Iranian border. Everything above, French control. Everything below, British control. But here's where it gets darker. They didn't create nations based on ethnic groups, religious boundaries, or historical territories. They created geometric borders designed for one purpose: maximum resource extraction with minimum native power. Kurds were split across 4 countries. Sunnis and Shias forced into the same borders. Ancient trade routes severed. Communities divided. But Britain had made another promise. A secret promise. To Sharif Hussein of Mecca, they promised an independent Arab kingdom if he rebelled against the Ottomans. Hussein's forces fought alongside the British. T. Lawrence of Arabia, led them into battle. They believed they were fighting for freedom. They had no idea they'd been betrayed before the war even ended. And there was a third agreement, the Balfour Declaration of 1917, promising Palestine to the Jewish people as a national home. Britain had now promised the same land to 3 different groups: the Ottoman territory to France, an Arab kingdom to Hussein, and a Jewish homeland to the Zionist movement. It was a web of lies that would birth a century of bloodshed. November 1917. The Russian Revolution exposed everything. The Bolsheviks found the secret agreement in the Tsarist archives and published it to the world. Russia had been a third conspirator, promised Constantinople and parts of Ottoman territory. The Arab world erupted in fury. They'd been used, lied to, colonized while being told they were being liberated. Sykes himself admitted the mistake before his death in 1919. He said the agreement was drafted in haste, in ignorance, and in the interest of imperial greed. But it was too late. The borders were drawn. The damage was done. Iraq, a nation that never existed before 1920, combining hostile groups under one flag. Result: decades of dictatorship, civil war, and foreign invasion. Syria, artificial borders creating ethnic tension. Result: a civil war that's killed 500,000 people. Palestine and Israel, two peoples promised the same land. Result: the world's longest-running territorial dispute. The Islamic State rose specifically to erase the Sykes-Picot borders. Their first act? Bulldozing the border between Iraq and Syria. Every major Middle Eastern conflict traces back to these lines drawn by 2 men in a London office. Over 5 million deaths, 50 million refugees, trillions in economic destruction, all because 2 colonial powers prioritized oil over humanity. Here's what they don't teach in schools. Sykes-Picot wasn't unique. It was the blueprint. The same arbitrary line drawing happened across Africa, across Southeast Asia, across the Americas centuries before. The alliance wasn't just between Britain and France. It was an alliance between power and greed, between empires and resources, between those who drew maps and those who had to live within them. And it never ended. Today's superpowers still draw lines, economic zones, spheres of influence, trade agreements. The names change. The maps look different. But the game remains the same. The Sykes-Picot Agreement officially ended in 1923, but its ghost still haunts us. Every time you see news of conflict in the Middle East, remember, this wasn't inevitable. This wasn't ancient hatred. This was designed. The people of the region aren't fighting because of who they are. They're fighting because of lines drawn by people who never set foot in their villages, never learned their languages, never cared about their futures. Understanding this doesn't solve the problem, but it's the first step, because you can't fix what you don't understand. The alliance that secretly ruined the world wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was a historical fact, a document, a decision, and its consequences are still unfolding.